Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, let's pull up this screen. Oh boy, inflation is crashing the market. I'm not the slightest bit surprised. You're probably not. With what's been going on, all the spending, look, there's just no way it's going to stop. The amount of government spending, it continues on. I mean, I think they just passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which is how you spend $700 billion or $1 trillion, and suddenly that's going to bring down inflation. I mean, it's the polar opposite. I don't have any problem with the climate change bill or whatever, but just call it that. Don't call it the Inflation Reduction Act or whatever. That's not what it is. Look, when you spend trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars and you put that out there in the market, that's going to devalue currency, that currency that you use to buy things. And we're struggling to get enough goods out there ever since the Rona. So now you've flushed the entire economy with trillions of dollars. I think 40% of all the money that's ever been printed has been printed in the last 3 years. You're going to have inflation, and it continues. So, and inflation is terrible for the stock market. It's a lot like this.
How about a little fire, Scarecrow?
Yeah, the wicked witch is inflation, no doubt, and she loves to put fire on it. And unfortunately, that's really hard on high growth stocks. I mean, most of them just get their butts whooped. Now you can take a look at what's happened with the market. Dow is down over 1,200, NASDAQ's down 600, that's 5%. That's a huge drop. It says here, Dow tumbles 1,200 for worst day since June after hot inflation report. It says inflation isn't about fuel costs anymore. A price increase broadened across the economy. And if you've gone to the grocery store or tried to even buy a sandwich at a sandwich shop, everything has skyrocketed. It's insane. Now we're going to talk about these penny stocks here in a minute, but this is a very difficult market to trade in. Look, unless you're over 65 years old, you've never traded in a market that has super high inflation. I mean, the last time we had inflation like this was the 1970s. So I was a little kid. And you probably were too, or you weren't even born. So we're in a very brutal market that's hard to really navigate. So I'm trying to stick with companies that are profitable and have a good growth pattern. And I'm staying away from pure speculation as much as I can. I mean, if you're not making money, I'm not touching you right now. And so that takes us into Ilus, CYBL, and SIRC. All three of these companies are making money. So I'm a lot more comfortable with them in the penny stock land. And let's start out with Ilus. We'll take a look at what the stock's doing today. And as you can see, it's actually come down a little bit. After yesterday, it's dropped about 8%, which is not surprising at all in this market. I would expect every stock to be down. I can tell you the people that are hating this the most, and rightfully so, are the seniors, because if you're on a fixed income and you've saved your whole life, you didn't have these higher wages to make. So now you're stuck with your set income and inflation skyrocketing. So when you go to the grocery store, that $100 bill doesn't go anywhere near as far as it used to. It goes about where $70 used to go. So it's terrible for seniors. It really is. And this is not good.
Logical.
And as we look at our first stock, Ilus, as you can see, it has come down about 8% today. So not unexpected, especially after the huge run up. I mean, it's gone up over the last 5 days, 85%. So seeing a little pullback in a market like today is not unexpected. It's actually should have been, I'm actually surprised it didn't pull back more, really. You would think there'd be some profit taking, but Ilus has really been on a run and it's got a lot of people excited. And I covered Ilus yesterday. And like I said, I'm only buying companies right now that are profitable. And of course, Ilus is profitable and has been for the last year or so. And their revenues are really skyrocketing, which is great, over 500% quarter over quarter. And like I said, I showed this yesterday, but this is why I'm buying Ilus, this along with what they've got in the future. And we know, like I say, they're working on a lot of milestones in September. Of course, the Serbia occupation and deal announcement, they're working on that. Their Form 10, very important so they can get an investment bank and do their name change. And that'll get taken care of, looks like this month, and that'll get them better financing for their acquisitions. And of course, Quality International, the $100 million revenue acquisition, it appears it's going to be done this month. And we know they've already put down payments down. And the share lockup and share buyback that will probably get announced this month. So that'll be real helpful too. They've been talking about that a lot. But this is a company that I'm holding long-term. Now, if it runs up crazy again, something like that, I may take some profit on it. But I've got a big long hold on Ilus because I think it's going to be a really big company one day, or at least it should. And when you look at the security details on it, they're still at the 1.325, and they're talking about locking up some more of these shares. So it would be good to see these outstanding shares actually go down, which would be tough to do during all these acquisitions. But if they pull that off, that will help the share price, no doubt. Now, the next stock is CYBL, which is CYBERLUX. And of course, they do not only the LED lighting for the military, but also software as a service, platform as a service, et cetera. And they've really had some nice growth. And the reason that I own CYBL is their tremendous growth and profit. They went from a year ago of $300,000 in revenue to $8.3 million, which is a phenomenal growth. You can see their gross margin went from $143,000 to $5.6 million. Their profit is now at $2.65. Even with the interest expense, it's over $2.5 million on $8 million in gross revenue. So that's super strong growth and very nice profitability. And they're looking to do, I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 45 million this year. So the third and fourth quarter will be even stronger than this 8 million, according to their CEO. So I love the growth story and I love the profit story of this company. They do have one issue, and that's this bad boy right here, Pink Limited Information. They had a problem with their filings being based on SEC standards, not OTC standards format. So they have changed that, and I've noticed they've actually done both years and sent them in, and that's an annual report final for 20 and 21. They had to redo both years, and they've also redone their quarters. So it's all done and been sent into the OTC, and here it sits. So that's actually a nice change. So at some point, I would expect this to change from Pink Limited to a Pink Current, which should really help the stock. And CYBERLUX is actually up 7% today, which is really strong on an impossible day with this horrible inflation news, which, like I said, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I would think at some point people are going to get tired of it. But look at that, 7.3% up. I'm really surprised by that. That's some real strength. But again, when you look at those profit and loss, and you see they've done what they need to do to get Pink Current, it's just a matter of will the OTC allow it. That takes time. So hopefully that gets taken care of shortly. It is a risk because it is Pink Limited, but it's a risk I'm willing to take, and I think that has been priced in. And lastly, we've got SIRC, which is a solar integrated roofing company or corporation. And you can see they've gone from 8 million the year before to 66 million. That's some unbelievable growth as well. And you kind of see a trend here. These are the stocks that interest me the most on the penny stocks. And that growth is huge. Gross profit is monstrous. And when you see they've done it, they've got a net income of 21 million on 66 million in revenue from a year ago where they had 4 million in loss. That's phenomenal improvement. So that's what interests me so much about SIRC and why I've been adding it to my portfolio. And realize some of these bills, which have led to inflation, of course, and a lot of things lead to inflation, but it also helps some companies like an SIRC because solar obviously is very much included in that bill, and it's going to help even the infrastructure bill, which was before now. Both of those things will help SIRC because there's a ton of money in there for companies that are solar based, which is what SIRC does. So I can see this company really performing well in the future. And like I said, it looks pretty darn good to me. That's why I've been adding it. And you can see SIRC has actually dropped below some support here at 25 cents. It dropped below that 29. So it's down here and getting into another pretty good buy zone. I would think it should hit this 25 cents right here and probably hit this support. Let me draw that in there for you. You can see exactly where that sits. So it hadn't hit that yet, but I would think it'll probably hit this and bounce. It might go through it. If it does, that just makes it a better buy. Because when I sit here and look at this market cap of 148 million, that's a pretty low market cap for a company that just pumped out that kind of profit. The forward PE on this is super low. It's super value stock land, which you don't see in penny stocks very often. So I'm very comfortable with SIRC buying it at these prices. And, I'll take that risk. Just taking a real quick look at all three of these companies. Short volume. I want you to look at the volume the other day, the 12th. It went from 5 million total volume to 73 million, and the short was 34 million. So it's still sitting almost 50% in short volume. But I mean, look at it, increased by what, 12-fold. Man, people were buying this stock. And here's SIRC. It's typically sits in the 30s as far as short volume. So it's getting some short volume interest, but not a tremendous amount of volume. As you can see, 3 million. So not huge, but a little bit more than it has been. And then CYBL has actually dropped quite a bit, down to 32%, because they're probably scared this thing's going to turn pink current. And if it does, they're going to get stuck. So that's probably why they're getting a little nervous. I don't blame them, because everything's been sent in. So if it switches, you're probably going to see a jump, and they don't want to get stuck holding short on that company. All right, folks, and that's Ilus, CYBL, and SIRC today. What a crappy day in the market, man. It crashed like crazy because of this inflation. I don't know that we're going to see inflation get any better anytime soon. There's just too much spending going on and too few goods. And look, that's just economics 101. If you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover these three companies. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on Mr. Frugal Investor.